Don, Kodiak's firing on all cylinders. You recently announced a deal with Atlas Energy where you move high quality frac sand in the Permian Basin. Why expand into off road? Why now?
Well, it's a really exciting time for Kodiak. I think it's an even more exciting time for the industry. It's the first real driverless commercial deployment out there using these large trucks. And the opportunity with Atlas is really the perfect use case for the Kodiak driver. When we think about everything we've built and everything we've done up until this point, you obviously have the backdrop of a huge driver shortage and economic need. So that's true no matter where you look. If you have trucks involved, you have a driver shortage because there just aren't enough drivers to go around. And this happened to be a perfect fit for our technology. It combines our on-road trucking tech, where we've developed a reliable, mature, sophisticated, generalizable technology, which I know you've gone into more details in other chats with. And then we have our off-road DoD tech. And we were able to take the best of both of those worlds and combine them into this commercial opportunity to drive revenue, provide value to a customer, and deploy a real commercial application today, which is incredibly exciting.
It's exciting. It's also serving a need. I'm speaking to a lot of individuals that work in the West Texas oil fields. And as you alluded to, labor is a big issue. Following that trend, to me, I look at expansion markets, potentially North Dakota, because you have the shale there, and then going into the Canadian oil sands. Do you see a potential opportunity to expand what you're doing with Atlas in West Texas, either North Dakota, if the weather's right, and the Canadian oil sands? Because there are two trends there, both moving towards automation and both having labor shortages.
Of course, we're looking into what we're calling industrial logistics across the board. I think the applications that you just mentioned are very attractive to us. I think there's also opportunities within logging. There's opportunities within mineral mining. It's really a massive business. The more you start to explore down these off-road opportunities, the more you realize this is a massive market in its own right. And of course, we're working frantically hard to get our trucks out on highway environments with no driver. But this is really a way for us to essentially de-risk the opportunity for investors. We don't need to bet on whether the market is ready. You only need to bet on whether you can deliver driverless trucks in the Permian or these other regions. And everything else on top of that is gravy. So we're really excited about the opportunities that we're pursuing today. We're absolutely looking into beyond, opportunities beyond that.
You sound like you've been a CEO for 20 plus years, and Kodiak's been around for 2 decades, because of what you're describing as a vertically integrated, diversified business. But yet Kodiak's still relatively young. Why did you make the decision so early on to diversify? You have the off-road business, the on-road business, the defense business. You're highly vertically integrated, but you're also strategically diversified. Why make those decisions so early in the company's career?
I think it's important when you're working on groundbreaking technology, which has never really been deployed, never really been proven, to go out and find the economic value. We, as an industry, have sat around for a very long time, making a lot of promises to investors, to the public, to everyone, that this revolution in transportation is coming. And everybody asks, well, when is it coming? And we say, it's right around the corner. Trust us. We're about to be there. And years and years and years have gone by. And I think there's this sense of disillusionment amongst folks. They're tired of listening to the hype that's being projected by the autonomous vehicle industry. And of course, now it's more exciting than it's ever been with the deployment that Waymo has been pushing on in the last a year or so, especially as they expand to multiple cities on the robotaxi side. But the big question mark is, where are we going to find traction in commercial vehicles? And the time has a lot of factors. Obviously, there's the technology that you have to develop. There's a supply chain you have to be concerned with. There's a lot of partners involved in building many of the technologies, especially as it relates to hardware, as it relates to the platform. There's the regulatory headwinds. You always have to keep a pulse on that. So there's a lot of challenges to deploying over-the-road commercial vehicles. And of course, we're very excited about that, and we're pushing as hard as possible. But from a very early point in Kodiak, to get back to your actual question, I recognize that you can't live on hype forever. Some of our competitors are still basically basing their business models on hype, but we wanted it to be different. We wanted to actually go after real business where we could show high gross margin, we could deploy as early as possible and start generating revenue and work our way toward a path to profitability. And that's what we've found ourselves in today. We have a very clear path towards profitability because we've kept our costs low. And I think that history will show Kodiak is going to have the highest EBITDA margins of any autonomous vehicle company on the planet as we continue to grow these types of businesses and we diversify into things like defense, into industrial applications, and ultimately over the road as well.
How are you going to achieve those high EBITDA margins?
Well, there's really two factors that go into it. You need to deploy a product that customers are really excited about, that customers want to use, and ultimately that they want to pay for. And then you have to secure your own technology and supply chain to ensure that you can grow that business in a reasonable manner while keeping your costs low. And that's the denominator in the equation is so important, because if you have infinitely high costs, you can never turn a profit, right? You can never turn a margin. And that's something that we've always been mindful at Kodiak about. It's not just, oh, trust us, we're going to revolutionize transportation, we're going to make $1 trillion, and therefore it doesn't matter what our cost basis is. I think that's a faulty argument. I think that's the argument that a lot of our competitors try to make, have tried to make in the past, and are still saying today. I think it's lazy, right? I think there's a way to keep your costs down while offering value to customers. And it's something that we consider to be incredibly important at Kodiak. So that's how we're pursuing it. We find contracts in areas where we can deploy today, we can scale the business, keep the costs low, and ultimately the numbers will speak for themselves.
I'm going to crown Kodiak ABC Capital Cities of Autonomy. If you study the history of ABC Capital Cities, one of the most capital efficient corporations in history, and eventually they bought ABC and sold to Disney. That's how Mr. Bob Iger became CEO of Disney. But you would walk in their office, they'd have an old used card table because they wouldn't spend money. They would constantly reinvest it into the business, and they grew very well. If you look at companies investing in businesses, I looked at some numbers recently, which spooked me. Meta has spent $45 billion developing the metaverse with Reality Labs. Waymo, according to Wolf Research, spent $30 billion. And Apple reportedly spent $20 billion developing Vision Pro. And here's Kodiak with less than $1 billion raised, and you're developing a business in the model of ABC Capital Cities that's highly capital efficient, that's scalable, and you're going to achieve those EBITDA margins. What do the economics look like of the Atlas deal? Will that be a profitable deal for you, or is that just you trying to gain market share?
Grayson, at the end of the day, this is a game of chess, and not everybody plays chess at the same level, right? We have to go and find the opportunities that make sense, and we have to do it in a very strategic way, which I think we have. As for the Atlas deal, obviously we haven't announced, and I can't talk about the specifics of the deal, but this is if Kodiak delivers, right? And that's the question. We need to actually deliver the trucks. We're already operating driverless today, of course, but we need to scale that. And if we're able to scale that business, this is a hugely profitable business for Kodiak. And in fact, if we never did DoD and we never did on-road autonomy, we would still be able to get to profitability as a company just with this one relationship in Atlas as we scale with them over time. And of course, we're not stopping there. We have other businesses and we're generating other revenues today, and we're scaling those revenues. But this is a hugely profitable opportunity for Kodiak. And at the same time, I believe this is a hugely profitable opportunity for Atlas. I won't speak for their economics. They can obviously do that on their own behalf. But I know that scaling business in that region in general is a challenge. It's hard to find and retain drivers. It's hard to operate these trucks in the harsh conditions that they do. And keep in mind, what most people don't realize is that on-road autonomy, at least in the commercial space, typically has time limits associated with it. Trucks generally only are rolling about 11 hours per day at most. Typically, I think the one study showed that the average truck moving time is about 7 hours per day. So these trucks are being used very inefficiently. That's not the case in the Permian Basin. Their trucks are being operated more or less 24/7. It's a continuous business that never shuts down. And so it's a perfect opportunity to deploy autonomous tech because, as we've been saying for many years, autonomy doesn't need to sleep. It never gets drowsy. It's always paying attention. It's always ready to go. And so we can really push on the economic value in this particular use case in a way that even on-road autonomy isn't as easy.
You just opened up the Perth, Australia market with the mines in Western Australia because they have the labor issues. It's 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off. The individuals I talk to, an individual cat, they don't go back. They can't get drivers for the trucks. That's another potential opportunity. To me, it comes down to you just follow the global labor shortages, and Kodiak is a very big, large, successful business. Looking to the future of Kodiak, you're obviously going to stay diversified. Will it be industrial logistics, defense, on-road? Will those be the three core pillars of the Kodiak business moving forward?
For now, we've got a lot on our plate, as you can imagine. Those three pillars are quite large pillars. Each one of those businesses is a massive opportunity in its own right. And we are incredibly bullish and excited about the opportunities we have within each of those. So yes, I think for now, those are the three businesses that we're going to focus on. Obviously, industrial logistics is here today. We're already operating driverlessly. We've signed a massive contract with an amazing partner who understands the value of this technology. We have some of the biggest and best commercial trucking companies as customers and partners in our on-road business. And then I think the performance and technology and reliability of our DoD stack speaks for itself, where we've really been able to show beyond state-of-the-art capabilities within ground-based autonomous vehicles in military form factors. So we're really pushing hard in all three directions. And I think the future is looking incredibly exciting as autonomy goes. And that's something that's not been true for many, many years. I think we're at a turning point. History will look back at this year, particularly the second half of this year, as a turning point in the autonomous journey.
Autonomy is becoming a business. Kodiak is clearly at the forefront of ushering in the business era of autonomy. The three pillars aside, what's next for Kodiak? What should we be looking for?
Well, obviously, we're heads down focusing on building up those first trucks delivered to Atlas, right? That's going to be a very significant moment. Today, we operate our own trucks, our Kenworth T680s in the region, and we're operating them for commercial purposes in a driverless fashion. But nobody's ever delivered commercial vehicles that are owned by the customer. And that's really the next step for us along this journey. So these are going to be heavy duty trucks. They're not the same trucks that we've been working with. We have really exciting announcements coming out about the platform and our partners who are helping enable that. And then beyond delivering for our industrial use case, we have our deepening our relationships in the defense industry. We're really excited. We didn't get to talk about it, perhaps another time, about the partnership with Textron Systems. They're a leading defense OEM. We announced, I think, a couple of months ago now, a partnership to jointly develop some technology with them. We have more announcements coming out this summer, and that's really, really looking promising. Early results are even exceeding our own and their expectations. And so more to come on this soon. And we've spent the last 6 years building. It's really been an R&D effort to now. It's time to execute. It's time to transition the company into an operations company. That's the transition that we're actively going through. And that's a transition that I've been waiting a very, very long time to get to. And it's incredibly exciting.
It's exciting for the industry with your customer operating the trucks and Kodiak providing the software. Becomes a very interesting business. Kodiak is on the cusp of becoming the next ABC capital cities. The future is bright. The future is autonomous. The future is Kodiak. Don, thank you so much for coming on the road to Autonomy Insights today.
Always a pleasure.